What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on Stephen A. Smith, and I'm bringing up this clip of something that uh, Nick Wright said about Stephen A. Smith a while ago, right? And the reason why I think that it's important now is because the Lakers just re-signed Austin Reeves, right? And so now everybody knows that LeBron James is on his way out. Now Stephen A. Smith is LeBron James' nemesis, right? And I want to make this video right now and say this because so I won't be I can tell people later on that I told you so. But I think that not long after LeBron James is done, I think ESPN is going to move on from Stephen A. Smith. And I can already see it now with the way that they're the way that they're catering more towards Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is he's in line for a pay increase. The ratings for Stephen A. Smith are kind of stagnant. They're not they're not growing. Stephen A. Smith has taken on almost like that villain. Well, he's really taken on that villain role. And he's not very well liked among professional athletes, especially the African American athletes. Like he don't have any like like if he was the president, his approval rating would be like through the floor, right? So he don't have a lot of leverage when it comes to that. And if you watch Pat McAfee, like Pat McAfee can get NBA, NFL, any sport. He can get all those athletes, black, white, any of those guys, right? It don't really matter with Pat McAfee. And the reason why he can do that is because Pat McAfee, he knows how to do his job without throwing people under the bus. So there's still a level of respect going both ways between the athlete and Pat McAfee as a reporter, right? Stephen A. Smith is not like that. Stephen A. Smith don't mind, and he kind of looks forward to taking the villain role. And there's not a long shelf life for somebody who take the villain, that take that stance or wants to be the villain. It's just not a long shelf life. Now I know he's been there for a while at ESPN, a long time at ESPN, but I think, in my opinion, I just think that it's all playing out and it's coming. It's gonna come to a head. I don't see Stephen A. Smith being somebody like a Mike Wilbon, like an older guy who's able to stay there, and people just like to hear him talk because of his he's been around for a while, and he can talk about sports back in the day, and he can talk about what's going on now compared to. I don't see Stephen A. Smith going out like that, right? Now I'm not saying that they're gonna they're gonna shame him or there's gonna be some type of scandal or something like that. I don't know, but I just think that Stephen A. Smith, when it I just think they're gonna really just like gradually just move away from him. If you remember, once Stephen A. Smith signed that big contract, they had him on everything, right? He had the morning show, then he'll go into other people's shows and commentate on there. Then he was doing the basketball games and stuff like that. Now they're not, now they're not, he's not doing as much, right? And part of that was overexposure. And I think now that, even with the Knicks situation, he didn't really, like him being a big Knicks fan, it seemed like the ESPN would like really lean into that more than what they did. But they didn't. And so I'm thinking that they really gonna like I said, separate themselves from Stephen A. Smith. Now, what I want to do now is I'm gonna play some audio of what Nick Wright had to say about Stephen A. Smith, because this right here is very true. Nick Wright's statements are very true. And if everybody can see this, then the people, Stephen A. Smith bosses can see this. Not only can they see what's going on with Stephen A. Smith, but they know better than everybody else, about Stephen A. Smith. So listen to what Nick Wright had to say, and I'm gonna come back and give some more of my input.
Once upon a time, Stephen A was a legitimately great reporter. Put every level of work in imaginable to where he's the biggest name in the space and still works as much as anybody in the business at all times is working. But talking to these guys like you're a mob boss and they better watch what they say, there's harm in it. I know stuff. I know technically it's my job to report the things I know, but I know it and I just keep it in my back pocket in case I ever have to use it like the big joker in a spades game. Give me a break. If you have real information about Jason Tatum's feelings about Jaylen Brown, you should report it. If you have real information about the Celtics organization, how they feel about Jaylen Brown that you're just sitting on, yes, you should report it. The answer is not go to the mattresses and escalate. And it makes all of us look bad. And also, here's the other thing. You're the only guy who does it.
And see, at the end, he said that Stephen A. Smith is the only guy who does that, right? And that right there, in my opinion, that's an important point. Like I said, it's all about image, and that you don't have like a long that shelf life when it comes that it really gets old. The shelf life for somebody who takes on that bad boy or that like the guy who's willing to go against the grain, right? Every business is really and most people are really conscious about their public image, right? And if you look at businesses and you look at people who are in the public a lot, they don't like businesses want to put themselves in the best light because that's how people, that you keep yourself in good standards with people because people shop, they buy, products and services from you. You don't see businesses that take on a villain type, no business take on a villain type image or anything like that because you'll go out of business eventually, and so Stephen A. Smith, I think his shelf life is up. He's the only one in the business who really is like that. And so I just think that once LeBron James is out the league, Stephen A. Smith, he won't be too far behind him, man. People not really feeling Stephen A. Smith. They haven't been feeling Stephen A. Smith for a long time. And he's just not putting up numbers. He always want to brag about he on the #1 show, but everything on his show they're just stagnant. They're just stagnant, and they really don't need Stephen A. Smith to be making all that money, and then not really being able to deliver. And so, Pat McAfee can get the interview anybody he want to interview, but Stephen A. Smith, like people really, like the best and the biggest stars in the league, NFL, NBA, they not really trying to sit down with Stephen A. Smith because his name is really mud. And so I think the network knows that. And I think the network is really going to phase Stephen A. Smith out. Like I said, I don't see him being somebody like a Mike Wilbon who you could bring on the show, and then, he's able to talk about the past and nostalgia and stuff like that. It might, Stephen A. Smith is like Nick Wright said, he's the only one who did that. He has beef with who is it? Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Terrell Owens. A lot of players really don't mess with him. So yeah, I just think his shelf life is just about up. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'm going to check you all out in the next video. Peace.